Welcome to episode 207 of the Exam Coach podcast. 5 career skills exams help you to develop. Now, for the first time ever, I've actually mentioned an episode number at the beginning of a podcast. Actually, I may have done that at the beginning podcast, but I know for the vast majority of them, I had no real structure because my studio was the streets of London most of the time, and my smartphone speaker, and a pair of Apple headphones. And that was it. And a few people wondering what the hell I was doing as I walked past them on the way into work or just walking around London randomly sometimes. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is because I have recently spent the last few days labeling each Exam Coach episode, reviewing each podcast, all of different lengths, all of different content, in fact, mainly staying on exams, smartphones, and career planning as broad topics, but it really was an interesting process going through everything. And before I get into this podcast, just want to highlight that I have actually labeled everything now, so it's much, much easier to navigate. And I'm actually up to, as I said, 207 episodes. That is a lot of episodes. It's amazing what you can get done when you just chip away at stuff over an extended period of time. So I've actually been doing the podcast for 3-ish years now. Started it in November 2015 when I was just volunteering doing the Exam Coach around schools. So if you don't know this, the way I actually started the Exam Coach was I got invited back to my secondary school to do a talk to some underperforming students who just needed a little bit of help with how to approach their exams and how to approach sixth form in general. Actually, they were making that transition from year 11 to sixth form. And the teacher actually asked me to come in because I was known to have made a bit of transition in terms of I mucked around a lot at the beginning of school, very unfocused, ill-disciplined. And at the end, I came out and I had my own way of doing things, which worked for me, but I definitely made that transition between being very distracted, unfocused, Jack the Laddie, sent out of classrooms kind of vibe to could focus when I needed to, but also chuck my energy into other activities outside the classroom to make a difference and have a bit of fun and get a decent set of grades as well. So if you want a quick breakdown of how the podcast is really timelined out, I'd say that November 2015 period to July 2016, you're going to get a lot of just general exam advice, a lot of, in fact, quite funny episodes because I was, not that I'm amazing at podcasting now, but I'd say I've improved a little bit, although my style is certainly not refined to the extent I'd like it to be, but working at it daily, and they're quite funny, those episodes, because I am obviously just fresh out of uni at that point. I'm interviewing some friends of mine, doing lots of different things, but it should give you a good insight into how I was thinking back then and hopefully some good value as well, because quite a lot of the thoughts are quite raw and unrefined because I had just come up with them and was looking at all the other information out there on the topics of exams, smartphones, career planning, things like that. And then 2016 or mid 2016 to mid 2018, August 2018, so that's this year, there are loads of episodes on my experience at VaynerMedia, global advertising agency. The CEO is called Gary Vaynerchuk, and I had an amazing time working there. I learned an incredible amount, a lot of inspiration, a lot of really cool situations that I got to be a part of and cool projects I got to work on. And those podcasts, although they are extremely rough and ready because I am literally walking down one of the busiest streets in London doing this, and sometimes my thoughts get a little bit muddled because I do have 20-ton lorries cruising past me and I'm sometimes at traffic lights just absolutely going hammer and tongs on my smartphone, and commuters are looking around at me being like, even in London you don't get that many weird looks because everybody's kind of in their own little world, but I was speaking into my headphones, quite clearly not on a phone call. So check it out, because I think that there's just some cool insights there into the day-to-day work, just a normal job, just a graduate working in a big company, VaynerMedia's got about 700 people over the US and London. And in fact, I was one of the first London hires. So I joined a team of 6 people from New York, and there was one other person from London who was on the creative team. So I don't. We always had this thing where we always argued who was the first. She was the first London hire, but she was in the creative team. I was in the account business development team. So in a way, I was the first in that department. I'm going to claim it anyway. But the key thing is just check it out, have a look. Hopefully, if you're thinking about career or how it could help, I think it would be valuable to you. And the period after that, August to now, is just a hodgepodge of exams, smartphone, career planning advice. Obviously, trying to keep it high quality, looking at the kind of questions that I'm getting and trying to riff off that. And for this podcast, I'm just going to take you through 5 career skills exams can help you to develop. And I'll do a little YouTube video on this as well, but I think the podcast adds another angle because I get to talk in a bit more detail and I get to unpack the personal experience a little bit more, which hopefully will help you maybe relate to it or figure out how you could deploy it in your own life to your own situation. Because I certainly know that when I had people who were a little bit ahead of me in the process of school, work, etc., it really helped me look at, oh, okay, so that it could happen down the line, or you've experienced this situation and handled it this way. How could I learn from that? That kind of thinking. Okay, let's get into it. So, exams, they often get a bad rap for not being a totally accurate indicator for a successful career or life even after education. And I agree with this totally. I think there's so much more to life than just a set of exam results. And an education is really about educating the whole person to be a happy, useful, fulfilled, however you want to put it, member of society. A good person that can contribute and enjoy themselves and bring enjoyment to other people as well through any form, business, just being a good citizen, helping other people out, being emotionally intelligent, being creative, being artistic, whatever. I think looking from the other's perspective for a moment, you should also consider that there are really a few useful things exams really do help us develop. So my approach was, if I'm doing these exams, I have to do them anyway. So I might as well try and build some useful skills whilst I'm doing so. And I've worked a few jobs now, all the way from being a litter picker in a hotel car park to, as I mentioned, VaynerMedia, a large corporate global advertising agency. And having that range of experience, I haven't worked every job, but I've done kind of the standard ones, I suppose. Barman, waiter, concierge bellboy. That was quite fun. Hard work though. Crikey, they work long hours. Greenkeeper on a golf course. Did a little bit of kitchen porter, pot wash kind of vibe as well. I'm just gonna have a sip of liquid thinking here. Excuse me. So I've done a fair bit, and there's probably a few others in there that I just did odd jobs in. Kind of, when you go to an agency and they send you out to venues to do any kind of job, really, moving chairs about, things like that. And obviously some business experience in there as well, working for a video editing company when I was at uni. And that's how I earned money throughout uni, because I'd done bar and waitering for a bit. I wanted to try and have a little bit more of a remote working opportunity, and video editing was a really good way to do it. And part of that is in 2011, my dad set up a small production company and he needed someone to edit the videos, so I just taught myself how to do it and then did it, because obviously it was more efficient, costing stuff out that way, and it worked out pretty well. So let's get into it. The first skill exams help you to develop is initiative. In order to do well in your exams, you need to start making things happen independently. And initiative is what this is all about. Whether it's as simple as showing up to lessons on time or making a revision plan, something has to be initiated by you in order to make headway within the exam context. And this is such an important skill to develop, because you look at any job application out there at all, you will see initiative is there, but maybe in a coded way. So it will often be termed as you've got to be a self-starter or can work independently. How many times do you see those words on a job application? The answer is loads. I've looked at loads of job applications, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, that stuff is there. You just have to be able to get stuff done. It's a quality that people think about it. If you had a business, you would want people to just be able to figure stuff out, right? To, off their own initiative, off their own thinking, be able to find solutions to problems, because that's valuable to you. It saves you time and it saves you personal effort. The problem is in a world where I think technology plays a big part in this, it conditions us to expect things to be done for us. It often limits our ability to be proactive. We're often passive. I've talked about, just as an example, the dopamine hits you get through social media networks a lot of the time. You don't actually have to do much to do that. Like the effort required to get that hit of feel good feeling or distraction or escapism is minimum. You just need to scan the fingerprint or face scan your phone to open it, and boom, you're in there. Yeah, you're escaping. You're getting rewarded through likes, or watching content that it makes you feel kind of detached and escaping out the real world. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a totally bad thing. It's just, if you over-index in that kind of behavior, it's going to give you the impression that things in life are meant to come very, very easy, and your perspective on the world is going to be a little bit distorted. And I think it's important to keep grounded and make sure that you understand the value of hard work, the value of being able to get things done, and decide and make decisions off your own thinking. A really good example of this is when I was working for my dad as a video editor. And this was I was 18 at the time, so 2011. And this was the first real time I'd worked with him properly in a proper business relationship, rather than father-son banter kind of vibe. And it was very interesting because he taught me quite a few lessons about initiative, because a lot of the time he would give me, which kind of annoyed me in the short term, he'd give me really, really limited instructions. So, for example, he would put files that I needed to edit in the shared folder database that we use to share files, but he wouldn't tell me what folder they were in. He would make me work it out. Little things like that. He would, if I asked a question, he would often not answer it and say, look, what would you do? If I wasn't here, what would you do? And in a way, well, not in a way, it did help me understand that a lot of the problems, a lot of the things in life, you can figure out yourself. If you actually just make it so the buck stops with you. You have to make the decision. You don't have someone to go to. You don't have anybody who can tell you this is the way to do it. You just decide, what, if I had to make a decision, would be the best way to do this. That's initiative. That's really taking control of situations. And yeah, you want to be smart about it. You obviously, if there's a big roadmap in front of you and you want to find out the most efficient way to do things, then yeah, ask questions and people will give you the answers. It's just having that mindset of, just thinking back for a minute, a point that I've just thought about is the idea that you are actually going to people and asking them for the best route to do things or the best way to do things is initiative anyway. That's initiative. And the key thing you just got to get into the habit of doing is saying, right, I'm going to be proactive, whether it's proactively asking someone a question, but have a think about it before you do that. Have a think. And then if you get to that stage where you're like, I should ask questions now, great. That's your next step. But always think, what would I do if I had to make this decision independently? And it'll help you get into the habit of being a bit more of a self-starter and getting things moving. The second thing that you want to understand or appreciate about exams and how they fit into a future career is they help you develop persistence. Exams are meant to be challenging. Well, quite literally, they are a test. You need to develop some grit and determination over the course of your education. And a great way to do this is to meet the learning curves and learning challenges you're going to face head on. For example, it's common that even when your effort increases, your grades might not. Your grades might stay the same, or they might even go down. The amount of times I get a WhatsApp or a Snapchat message, or even Instagram DM, I'm getting more of them now because I'm growing that out a bit. But the amount of times I get one of them and they say, it's students saying, hey, I've put loads of effort into maths and I'm just not getting any better. Okay. I say, right, there's a couple of things there. The great thing is you've got the effort level. That's awesome. You need that in order to be able to do anything. The second thing is you need to be persistent. You need to be able to maintain or increase that effort level because we've already understood that it's a key ingredient to get us moving forward and get us improving. But you also need to be able to refine and reframe the situation. So look at, okay, what am I doing right now? What do I need to do differently? What haven't I tried yet that I could try? Also, reframe it positively. Say, okay, I'm getting a D in maths at the moment and I'm putting in loads of effort. Great. At least I'm not one below that. At least I know where exactly I am. At least I know what I'm getting wrong and what I need to improve on. I've got feedback from the examiner or the teacher. I'm currently a D grade. Let's have a look at what I need to do exactly to get a C grade. And you define that clearly. You look at the exam specification or the mark scheme and you see that, okay, this is the kind of answer I need to be doing. And you work with your teacher to say, right, I need to develop the ability to answer this type of maths question. Can you please help me out? And you also show that you're not going to just give up. You're going to do the prep work. You're going to take some initiative. You're going to look at the question examples. You're going to look at how previous questions have been done. You're going to really concentrate and identify what's actually happening in each question. You're going to take each step by step, break it down into small chunks, and eventually you will get there because you will be able, well, if you do, you will have persisted. You will have kept at it, keep going, and don't give up. It's such a huge quality. I think so many people these days, especially with the comparison that social media encourages, means that a lot of people get discouraged from even starting stuff, even trying things, even just getting the ball rolling. And you've got to be able to just really focus on just the little wins, the little things that are going to keep you moving forward, and not comparing yourself to someone whose context, family situation, goals, beliefs, attitudes you really have no idea about because you're just seeing them communicated over social media. Okay, in all the jobs I've had, persistence has been a key skill. Whether it was how to cut a green properly on a golf course or learning the proper processes needed when you're working in you're working over multiple offices and multiple locations. In order to understand how things work, you have to be able to persist and say, right, I didn't get it right this time, but you know what? I remember this time around, and I sent the email to the right person this time. A great thing to say when you're working in any company, by the way, is if someone's telling you how to do something or they're correcting you, just say, sure, I'll make sure I do that next time. And as long as you say that, it shows positive intent. Little hiatus in the podcast there. Just had a delivery guy. It wasn't Santa Claus. I was a bit disappointed at that, but there was a delivery guy at the door, so I had to go to the door, open the door. But now I'm back on the podcast. Essentially, you want to see everything as a learning experience because this is going to allow you to be persistent, to be determined, to be gritty, and come back every day ready to hit it and improve and celebrate the small wins. I think one other thing I'd mention is when I hear or read comments from students saying, I can't use flashcards, I can't do this, I can't do that. One thing, if you ever find yourself speaking like this, it's going to be very difficult for you to be persistent because when someone says quite a definitive, absolute statement like I can't, it means that it doesn't really matter what I recommend them to do because they're already in a mindset of there are actually things in life that they just cannot do. And that's just incorrect. That it's as simple as that. I mean, it's been proven too many times by too many people from too many different background situations, abilities, everything, that you can achieve almost anything you want, um, apart from perhaps things which haven't been achieved before. But really, within the context of exams and school, so many people have been through it and overcome challenges, and that's one of the great advantages. You've got so many people that have been through education before you. You can find someone who's encountered those same challenges and found solutions to the problems. So never really say I can't. Always say, at the moment, I'm not that good at using flashcards, but I know I could learn how to use them better and learn the information faster and more effectively. And that's the kind of approach you want to be having. And also, don't allow people who are a little bit older than you, maybe it could be your parents, it could be a friend, it could be anyone. Sometimes through their own perhaps negative worldview, they'll try and discourage you from thinking you can do stuff by persisting, by really putting in large amounts of effort. And they'll, it's this idea that I think some parents just try and tell their kids that, you know, the world has to adapt to them and their circumstances rather than they have to adapt to the world. I think everybody should go in with the attitude that you need to adapt to the world around you, because the moment you get into this idea that the world has to adapt to you and your circumstances, and there's certain things you can't do and you can do, and everything's got to change because you don't like it this way and XYZ, you get into this mindset of blaming everything for your problems, your difficulties, your challenges, and you don't have any persistence, because if you don't like something, you just give up. There's no point in trying to adapt the way you do things in order to actually overcome the problem. You just point your finger at the problem and say, that's unfair, that's not helping me, that doesn't support me. And then you just give up. And the way you actually find significance and meaning is by just blaming and complaining about everything. And that's it, really. I mean, I don't know. I suppose I did do this a little bit when I was younger, but I quickly grew out of it because I realized it doesn't actually get you anywhere. And if you actually want to be fulfilled, have a good education, you need to start doing this persistence thing and getting your mindset right, really believing you can do stuff regardless of who's telling you can't. The third skill is self-management. So exams are a fantastic way to learn how to manage yourself, managing your time, managing your day-to-day schedule, managing your health, your exercise. It's so much more than just being able to regurgitate a load of information onto a piece of paper within a 2-hour time frame. I think the key thing with self-management is when you have a job, it's your responsibility to be able to get to work on time, to do things in a timely manner, to manage your emotions so that you're coming with a positive vibe, positive attitude, to be able to obviously keep your health in check so that you're able to actually work and come in and help out the company that you're working for, or if you've started your own company, build that company because you've got energy, you've got passion. And exams are a great training ground for this. It's as simple as that. They require you to be organized, to build out a schedule, to build some routines in your life, to look at different areas of your life and how you're contributing to them and keeping them in balance and making sure that things aren't getting too unbalanced or out of check, so that if you imagine the analogy or metaphor of plates spinning, you want to try and keep all those plates spinning at the same time, because that's what a balanced life looks like. Having healthy relationships, having a healthy mindset, a good education. When you get old, I suppose it is financial as well, health and well-being. Your mindset, you could talk about like the spirituality side of it if you want to. All those things come together to actually make you a healthy person and to keep your day-to-day good, and exams are a great training ground to actually learn that. The fourth thing exams help you to develop is understanding and memory skills. For any exam, you need to be able to do these two things. You need to be able to understand information and then recall it in an exam situation. And understanding information is really just being able to look at it and say, okay, this makes sense. It connects. I can talk to another person and explain it to them. I think one of the issues people sometimes have is understanding something in their head and then being able to articulate that. But in an exam context, one of the best ways to make that connection is look at, okay, what does the examiner want to see? How does what I just read or understood translate to the exam paper? What do they want to see from me? Because that's going to help you, number one, get the marks right, but also it's going to tell you what exactly you need to memorize in order to get the marks in the exam. The other thing I'd mention is the way this connects to your career is perhaps less direct than the other points I've mentioned because, for example, when you're a waiter or when you are in a corporate company working, obviously the ability to understand people is really, really important to be able to understand communications. But the ability to recall that in a pressurized environment that, say, is an arbitrary length, so 2 hours or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't, that doesn't really feature that much. But I would say what does matter is your ability to remember communications, remember things people have told you, and then connect that information on the fly. That's impressive and it's valuable as well. So when you look at a waiter working in a bar or a restaurant, an impressive thing to do is to be able to remember all the locals' drinks. That's customer service, that's value. Having a good memory is required in order to do that. Understanding what the customer wants and how they like their drinks or food is also something that is a skill you have to build and it requires a bit of effort, but it's valuable. Any restaurant owner would love it if all their bar staff knew the drinks people liked because it's great customer service. In the same way, when you're in a corporate environment, if you're in a meeting, the best people I work with are the people who are able to connect information that had been released or circulated to everybody in the company perhaps 2 or 3 months ago and amalgamate that with new information to create new opportunity, new ideas, thinking that can't be summoned up without the mixing of two things. And that's where things get interesting and get valuable, when you've got someone who's a good listener, understands what's going on, understands information, how other people are communicating, what that means for them, and then remembering it to produce new ideas, new thinking, things that can bring value to the business. And they're doing this off the top of their head. Yeah, they've got a notepad. Yeah, they've got an Evernote app or Apple Notes or whatever you use to take notes and store all your information, a Moleskine if you're old school. But they're also able to think up things on the fly because their brain is sharp. They have a great memory and they're able to connect information in a way that other people haven't been able to do yet, but could definitely learn. And I think exams is one of the first places where you can just get a foot on the ladder to being able to do this. The fifth and final career skill exams help you to develop is self-awareness. A good way to think about this one is understanding where your strengths lie, very simply. The reason for taking a wide range of subjects when you're younger is so we can do just this. It's so we can look at, okay, where do my strengths lie? What do I enjoy? Do I enjoy history? Do I enjoy English? Do I enjoy sciences? Am I a bit more technical? Do I enjoy woodwork or, technology stuff? It doesn't matter. The key thing that matters is you have the opportunity to decide where your strengths lie. And this, I think, is something that's undervalued in our education system because people don't appreciate how much choice they are actually given. There is a lot of choice in our education system, at least to figure out broadly what you'd like and broadly where your interests lie, and then you can specialize as time goes on. And as we go through the education system, we're encouraged to do this. We're always encouraged to pick less subjects. So, for example, if you're looking at the UK education system, you take a large amount of GCSE exams, and then you narrow that down to a couple of A levels or a few A levels, or a smaller set of exams, and then you take a degree, which is in one thing. But within that one thing, you're going very deep, right? You're not casting the net as wide, but you're really getting a good understanding of what that thing is about that you're studying. And if you can carry this forward, this ability to understand where your strengths lie, by having to do it throughout your whole education, you're constantly having to make choices and decisions about where you can invest your energy to, one, be the thing that actually you want to do and is going to make you happy, and two, add the most value to the society you're going to be a part of after education. It's really important because when you're working in a company or with a team of people, understanding how you can be valuable in that situation is going to help you contribute the most. And finally, to finish this one up, I have a quote which I just thought of the moment I came to do this podcast, but I thought it'd be interesting for you guys, seeing as a couple of things that I mentioned in this podcast, specifically self-awareness and self-management, I think have a lot to do with our relationships with our friends and everybody around us. It's really important that exams are understood as a intellectual exercise as much as they are an emotional exercise. So what I mean by this is I really think exams are decided on the training field, but also within our relationships that we have. For example, when your friends ask you to go out and you've got an exam the next day, but they've all finished, do you take that short-term gratification reward of going out but taking the bad result and not putting in the prep work all the way up to the last minute? Are you able to have that conversation with your friend where they really want you to do something else with them on that evening, but your schedule dictates that you don't have time to do that in this case, and you got a load of friends, so you're getting asked from all different angles angles to do it. You need to be good at making those decisions and choices about, it's not about pushing people away, it's about doing what's right for you and also managing your relationships with people so they are in a healthy spot. And this is why I think so many people could make up some serious ground with exams, is being able to manage those relationships effectively. And there's a good quote from Harry Potter. H. Potts, the movie that most kids, I imagine, grow up with. I know I did, but it's a cracker. And this one's from the Philosopher's Stone, the first one. My favourite is probably Goblet of Fire, I'd say. It is a cracker, that one, but Philosopher's Stone, absolute belter as well. Anyway, Dumbledore comes out with this line about Neville Longbottom, legend. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom. And of course, after that, Gryffindor win the house trophy, and it's fun and games all round. Neville, hero of the day. Top work. But by this, I think it makes an important point, which is, I'm not saying pick a fight with your friends. I'm just saying make the choices that are right for you. Because too many times have I seen people do stuff because they've been pressured into it by their friends, and they're following a herd mentality or a pack mentality. And if that honestly doesn't make you, if you are happy doing that, if that genuinely makes you happy I've seen people, for example, be on nights out where they just don't want to be there. They'd much rather be at home watching Netflix, just chilling with a pack of Doritos. If you want to do that, do that. It's okay. Just say, hey, I'm chilling at home. It's cool. I'm going to be going large for the next one with you. But right now, I just fancy just chilling and doing this. And being able to make those independent decisions in order to live your life the way you want to, but also achieve exam results that you're proud with, happy with, and you actually do care about, if you do care about them, is really important. So get good at it. You don't need to have a massive conversation with your friends about it. Look, I'm going to be doing this over the next 3 months, so please don't bother me. Don't do that. It's just on the split second moments, just be able to say, hey, look, right now I've got to focus on this, and they'll be empathetic to it when you put it in those terms. They might give you a little bit of banter, a little bit of like, oh, you're boring kind of thing. But if you don't see it as a dig at you, as a personal slant, which it's not, then nothing's bad's going to happen. You just laugh it off and just be like, yeah, I'm going GIMP squad at the moment, kind of thing. Just have a bit of banter with it. It doesn't really matter. Like, these whole exam things are going to be over in 6 months anyway, or I don't know how far you're tracking out from them, but they'll be over soon. And then you'll be able to spend as much time you like doing exactly what you want with your friends, and you'll be able to build on the skills you developed in the exam room, apply them in your career, and have a decent set of grades to get through the next stage in the education process, which is going to open up a whole load of new opportunity to you. Sweet. I've rambled on a bit in this one, but I hope you've had some valuable messages come through the airwaves to you, and go away and implement a few of them, or at least think about developing them, because I know some of you might be a little bit away from your career yet, but hopefully it gives you some something to follow in the future. The other thing that I want to do at the end of most podcasts is point you in direction to another podcast that I think would be useful for you to listen to. God, I'm on a mad one. I need to have a bit of liquid thinking. Much better. Cracking. Okay. 2 podcasts that I think you should listen to. Episode 8, Pina Colada versus Contribution. What a name. This one is an interesting one about getting bored of too much leisure time. That leisure time you dream of, most of us dream of, on the beach with perhaps a pina colada. Non-alcoholic, by the way, if you're under the legal drinking age. Alcoholic if you're above the legal drinking age. But sitting on a beach, doing nothing, leisure time, it's an argument I put forward that actually, after a while, you probably get bored of that, and you're going to be more concerned about your contribution and what you're actually adding to people's lives and helping people out for or about. The next thing is episode 12, Can't Be Asked for Exams. That one, it's pretty hard hitting, but have a listen to it. If you find yourself unmotivated and you can't be asked for exams at the moment, have a look at it, have a watch of it. I mean, I've got to stop doing that. It's because I'm making so many videos at the moment. I'm editing quite a bit, so I'm in video mode. When I go to podcast, get into podcast mode. I'm going to check out. I hope you have a belter today. Go large, apply those 5 career skills, develop them within your exams. Have a top one. I'm checking out.